There is new evidence that Donald Trump's mental decline is intensifying. Donald Trump appeared at a New York economic club and faced a rather straightforward question about the cost of childcare. Watch this.
If you win in November, can you commit to prioritizing legislation to make childcare affordable? And if so, what specific piece of legislation will you advance?
Well, I would do that, and we're sitting down. You know, I was we had Senator Marco Rubio, and my daughter Ivanka was so impactful on that issue. It's a very important issue. But I think when you talk about the kind of numbers that I'm talking about, that, because look, childcare is childcare. There's something, you have to have it. In this country, you have to have it. But when you talk about those numbers compared to the kind of numbers that I'm talking about by taxing foreign nations at levels that they're not used to, but they'll get used to it very quickly. And it's not going to stop them from doing business with us, but they'll have a very substantial tax when they send product into our country.
The question was, can you commit to making childcare more affordable? And what legislation would you advance?
Those numbers are so much bigger than any numbers that we're talking about, including childcare, that it's going to take care. We're going to have, I look forward to having no deficits within a fairly short period of time, coupled with the reductions that I told you about on waste and fraud and all of the other things that are going on in our country. Because I have to stay with childcare. I want to stay with childcare, but those numbers are small relative to the kind of economic numbers that I'm talking about, including growth, but growth also headed up by what the plan is that I just told you about. We're going to be taking in trillions of dollars, and as much as childcare is talked about as being expensive, it's relatively speaking not very expensive compared to the kind of numbers we'll be taking in. We're going to make this into an incredible country that can afford to take care of its people, and then we'll worry about the rest of the world. Let's help other people. But we're going to take care of our country first. This is about America first. It's about make America great again. We have to do it.
Does anybody really know what he was talking about there? He was literally all over the map. And again, the question is, what are you going to do to help childcare? And the answer could be, well, we're going to make childcare more affordable by giving tax breaks to families that have to send their kids to childcare, or we're going to force insurance companies to cover the cost of childcare, or we're going to stop the price gouging of the people who run childcare and daycare, or we're going to lower what it takes in terms of people working for childcare. So you don't need a certificate if you want to be a specialist. There's all sorts of logical answers, but Donald Trump just sort of rambling, that's not a plan. And when he starts talking about Ivanka and Marco Rubio, and then the second part about this is he's dismissive of this question as if it's beneath him, that, oh, this is small. I'm talking about bigger things. I'm talking about tariffs and tax policy that's going to raise billions, and childcare is very small, as if, don't bother me with the small things. Childcare is small. I don't need to get involved in that. It was a rambling, incoherent, and dismissive response from Donald Trump. And again, this is not a difficult question. You can say, look, I don't think I don't think we should do anything to affect childcare. I'd let the markets figure it out. And people, they want to send their kids to childcare. Well, they need to be able to afford they need to be able to afford it. Or you talk in general terms about, we're going to make the economy so good for everybody that everybody has more money to spend on things like childcare and groceries and necessities of life. But Donald Trump's answer was just sort of rambling. And the crucial responsibility of any politician is to speak clearly, to make a point. Now, Donald Trump wasn't the only person who got tripped up over childcare this week. J.D. Vance also seemed to insult a lot of people with his response to a question about childcare. Watch this.
And it's very hard for working families to get by. How will we lower the cost of daycare?
Such an important question, Charlie. And I think one of the things that we can do is make it easier for family models to choose, or for families to choose whatever model they want, right? So one of the ways that you might be able to relieve a little bit of pressure on people who are paying so much for daycare is make it so that maybe like grandma or grandpa wants to help out a little bit more, or maybe there's an aunt or uncle that wants to help out a little bit more. If that happens, you relieve some of the pressure on all the resources that we're spending in daycare. Now, you talk about about just daycare. Let's say you don't have somebody who can provide that extra set of hands. What we've got to do is actually empower people to get trained in the skills that they need for the 21st century. We've got a lot of people who love kids, who would love to take care of kids, but they can't, either because they don't have access to the education that they need, or maybe more importantly, because the state government says you're not allowed to take care of children unless you have some ridiculous certification that has nothing to do with taking care of kids. So empower people to get the skills they need. Don't force every early child care specialist to go and get a 6-year college degree where they've got a whole lot of debt and Americans are much poorer because they're paying out the wazoo for daycare. Empower working families, empower people who want to do these things for a living, and that's what we got to do.
A couple of things here. Again, J.D. Vance was asked, what are you going to do about the price of childcare? And his answer was, well, let's get grandma and grandpa. Let's have them help out. Or maybe you get your aunt and uncle. You know, Senator Vance, maybe somebody's grandma and grandpa are still working because, and oh, by the way, Republicans want to raise the retirement age for Social Security, so they're going to have to work into even later years in life. Or maybe grandma and grandpa are sick, or maybe they don't live near their grandkids, or maybe the aunt and uncle would love to help pitch in, but they're too busy taking care of grandma and grandpa. Grandma and grandpa helping to deal with childcare, that is not a policy solution. A policy solution is, oh, we're going to make childcare and daycare more affordable. We're going to give tax credits. We're going to force insurance companies to cover it. We're going to do things to help people have more disposable income to spend. Now, he sort of got into this idea about, oh, well, maybe we should make it easier for people to work at a daycare or childcare. But he lied in the midst of all that, because when he said, oh, you need a 6-year college degree in order to work at a daycare. That's not true. In order to get an entry-level job in a childcare or daycare, every state simply requires that you have a GED or the equivalent of a high school diploma. That's it. Now, if you want to have a certification, in other words, be a childcare or daycare specialist, then yes, you need a little bit of extra stuff. You need a certification or a credential. And you get that certification by having 4 months of work experience in a childcare or daycare, 4 months, and then taking classes that will take you about online or at an institution 2 months. So you're talking about 6 months to get this special certification so you can make more money. It's not 6 years. And for J.D. Vance not to know this stuff, given that he has kids, it makes you wonder, maybe J.D. Vance just didn't send his kids to childcare. Maybe he had the opportunity to simply have babysitters or nannies at home and never had to worry about this sort of thing. But he has absolutely no idea what he's talking about. And for him and Donald Trump to both get tripped up over something this basic, when you talk about families and what they're struggling with and the basic costs for families, you're looking at gasoline, you're looking at grocery prices, you're looking at daycare. A politician who is a presidential candidate or a vice presidential candidate should be able to talk about any one of those with fluency and clarity. But instead, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are all over the map. Donald Trump is rambling. J.D. Vance is suggesting, oh, just get your grandparents or your aunt and uncle to help you out, make it easier. That's nonsensical, and that doesn't address the key policy question that is being posed to these candidates. And this is an issue that matters particularly to suburban women voters, the moderate independent voters that are just tuning into this presidential campaign now, who might ultimately make the difference in terms of who wins. So, amazing, right? Remarkable.